we're going to replace this valve on this Hongyi inflatable because it has split. You might not be able to see it, but it has split right here. So we're going to cut this out. We're going to replace it. Basically going to cut off all of this around the rim that's sticking up. We want to have a nice flat surface. Actually, let me grab my diagonal cutters. This video was not practice. This is pretty much just off the cuff. So once I get this flat, then I kind of have two options for mounting this. And there's some pros and cons. I actually slipped a little bit there, but that will be all right. So the two different options that we can do, we can either mount it on top like this, or we can go inside. Now there's pros and cons. The pros are that sometimes this can look better. Usually it looks better if you're cutting a virgin hole and putting it in, but this is not. This has been welded once before, so probably going to opt for putting it on top. The cons for having it inside are it is a little bit more difficult to glue. You basically have to kind of get the needle under and run it around, and it's tough to know if you've put enough glue, especially if the material is not clear. So we'll go ahead and put it on top, and then I'm going to actually do a reinforcement on top of that. So go ahead and put some glue. You want to make sure you have a decent amount. You put too little and it's not enough to actually bond. This basically melts the plastic or chemically welds it. It's basically several solvents, toluene, MEK, acetone, all sorts of lovely stuff. It's not actually great to breathe. So I'm going to try to center this thing. The key is to put pressure on it for the minute or so that it's going to be liquid. You got about a minute work life. It actually kind of depends on how much glue you put on, really, for how much work life it is. You want to kind of be careful not to push too much of that glue out, because, for example, this is clear material that's printed black on the inside. That print will come off if that glue touches it, so you want to really try to be careful to not squeeze the glue out into the inside and touch the material. I could squeeze it out on the outside, it's not going to be a big deal because the print is on the inside. That's not typical. Most inflatable products, the print's going to be on the outside surface, but this is a clear material with the print on the inside. So it's starting to set up, and the fact that we mounted this on the outside is really nice because you can see the bubbles. You can see where it's bonded because it kind of changes colors. It ends up going black because that's the color of the material behind it when it's wetted out and bonded. And if it's not, then it's kind of clear. You can see bubbles. So I know that I'm going to end up doing a reinforcement piece. So I'm going to do the best I can with this, but I'm not going to sweat it because there's going to be another piece that goes on top. Actually take that valve that I cut off and use that as a gauge. Let's see. Grab a gel pen. So this is giving me the inside. We're going to basically make a donut. Basically, for the outside, we're going to eyeball it. Take the inside and maintain kind of a uniform 3/8 to a 1/2 inch or so is kind of what it looks like it needs. What this is going to do is it's going to provide another layer to seal and to reinforce. So it's probably actually going to be a lot easier to put the glue down first instead of on the back of that, because putting it on the back of that, you're going to slide it over, it's going to get all over everything. So we're going to put the glue down here. Now these valves are not exactly easy to come by. We happen to have a number of these on hand. If you happen to need one, get in touch with us. They aren't really available from what we've found on the internet. We've basically had to go to Alibaba and go to one of the factories that makes these valves and order about 100 of them to use on our products. You can find Boston valves, which are a similar valve that unscrews. They're using on airboats and things like that. But these particular ones, we couldn't find, just people selling onesie, twosies of them. You can find some of the smaller ones. Typically, they seem to be sold for kiteboarding. Some of the smaller valves, but we try to stock small, medium, large valves for our products, so we could be a resource if you need one. So the main objective here, once you get the glue down, is just to kind of put pressure, because that glue is basically a solvent that melts the plastic, and you putting the pressure is what really forms the bond. So unlike most glues, you don't let this stuff set up, you put it down wet. So then we can come back in here and see where we need some more glue. We can put it on the back side using a syringe. These syringes are a game changer. They are available on Amazon. I think they sell about 20 of them in a kit for about 10 bucks. They're meant for glue. The needle's not sharp, it's blunt. The kit comes with several different sizes of syringes, several different sizes of needles. Right now I'm using the largest syringe and the largest needle. We find that it works best if you you unscrew the needle, you suck the glue up, and put the needle back on. You can leave this thing laying around for days without any problem. Literally, you can just come back up and it's not plugged up or anything. If you let it set for about a week, the tip of the needle will get plugged up, but you can just kind of scrape it and pull it off and you're good to go. I usually just keep them filled with glue. I've never let one dry out. You'd probably just throw it away if it dried out. After a few weeks of using it over and over again, the little plunger will start to break down. You just throw it away. But as cheap as they are, you get a lot of use out of them. Or we do anyhow. We use them kind of non-stop. I don't know, if you let it just sit on a shelf and not do anything, then I don't know, it may probably break down the little plunger inside there. So basically I'm just kind of doing a little bit of touch-up work now, going around the outer perimeter. I always slide my finger, because if the glue gets on it and you push down, you're basically going to leave a little fingerprint, because the solvent will evaporate almost immediately when you touch it. But if you slide it, you kind of wipe the excess glue. And then if you just kind of rub your fingers together, the excess glue will solidify and just kind of rub right off. So it's really just it's all about technique with this kind of glue. So that's pretty much it. Right now it's about time to go ahead and inflate, because if you inflate it, it's going to put pressure behind it. It's actually going to help it bond. I would probably go not completely like overinflated or completely tight, but just enough to basically inflate the object to its shape, and then let it sit for a good hour or so, and then maybe inflate it a little bit more and pressure test it. And I'll probably take some soapy water and just make sure I don't have any air bubbles. That's just a really good way. That way you don't have to wait overnight to know if you got a hole. You'll know immediately, and if you do, then you can go ahead and fix it. And doing that, I usually don't even have to use a patch. You usually see if there's some air leaking out, you can take the syringe and get the needle kind of up underneath there, or you can take a really small screwdriver, drop a little dot of glue, and then use a small screwdriver to kind of work it wherever it's coming out, and just put some pressure on it, and you should be taken care of. And that's pretty much all there is to it.